What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a fantastic day. Today's video is going to be about something that I've been trying to figure out for many years, and I think a lot of fishermen have. And I don't think anybody has fully figured out what the exact tactics are for this. So I'm just going to pass around this information to you, and hopefully it helps you out. But before I do that, I just want to let you guys know that at the start of this video, we are at 80 subscribers. Giveaway starts at 100. So let's get there. Let's get this giveaway going, and I will let you guys know when that actually happens. But let's get back to what this video is going to be about today. So it's going to be about pre-spawn bass fishing. Now, the reason for this is because down in Texas and Florida, it's basically starting right now, and I just want to get this information out to the people that are down there, and then the people that are up north, like I am, will be able to use this when the time comes. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is how you should start, or how you should go about trying to find these fish initially. Now, what I do is I like to start out super shallow at first. Some people like to go out deep and work their way in to see if they're still deep and still moving in. I love fishing shallow water. Shallow water will tell you the temperature of the water, which is what really matters when the fish are spawning. It will help you see what's going on, and it will also be the final stage in the bass starting their beds, mating, all that stuff. Through my time of fishing, I've always found that there's fish in shallow water. Now, they might not be the big ones, but there will always be fish in shallow water, and that's just another reason why I like to start out there. The next part of it is weather. Now, this is something that I've been trying to figure out for many years with cold fronts, warm fronts, storms, just water temperature in general. I've found that water between 50 and 55 degrees seems to be like the magic temperature for fish starting to move up. Now, with this though, there could be a cold front coming in, and you really got to watch that, because yes, there will be some that are still moving in, but maybe not. Some people are so worried about the water temperature that they're just looking at the electronics like, oh, when's that water temperature gonna switch? But you can't really do that, because you gotta look at the future weather that's coming, because somehow that plays into the role that bass know, and I have no idea how that is. That's like the whole science part that I haven't really understood yet. But yeah, you just gotta look at the weather and not just the water temperatures. I've also tried to focus on moon phases. Some people say that does work. Some people say bass fishing has nothing to do with moon phases. I've found personally that once the moon gets into like the full stage is when bass will really start moving up into shallow water. And that is if the water seems to be in that 50-55 degree area. Now, you don't necessarily have to go off the moon phases. That's just something that I've done a lot of research on and feel like has started to play into me catching more fish. But I mean, that's your call. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but I like it and makes you sound smart. Now I'm gonna go back to the warm and cold fronts for a second real quick. With the warm fronts, it would be a good idea if you're waiting for that really hot bite to go in the third or fourth day of warm weather. Now, the first 60-70 degree day that you find, the fish probably won't be moved up to where you think they are. I mean, yeah, there will be some, but not like they will be if the weather stays warm for a consistent period of time. Now, after those 3 to 4 warm days, you might get a cold day. Still go out there, because the fish are going to be hungry, they're going to be feeding, and you'll catch a lot of fish that are just ready, man. They'll be shallow and ready to eat and ready to get into the whole spawning situation. If a cold front comes through, it's not like the fish are gonna move back out deep. They're smart enough to know that it's only gonna last a day or two, so they're just gonna find some heavy cover to go hide under for a little bit, and then they'll be right back shallow. So it's kind of whether or not they're up for coming out of the cover to eat the bait, or if you really got to work on them and really got to antagonize them to get them out of there and catch them. Now I'm going to go over where you should look to find these fish. The first spot is funnels. So this is where the lake kind of goes through and puts water into a pond. Now I'm a pond guy, so I'm going to be fishing the pond to where it opens out into the lake. Now if you're sitting on the boat and you're in the lake, then fish those funnels, because those fish are going to be going into the ponds to spawn, because it's most likely more shallow than the lake. If you see riprap kind of along the funnel, I would start throwing a little square bill crankbait, just kind of a reaction bait to get the bass energized. What also will work is little Senkos, or even a plastic swim bait might work. Now what those Senkos and swim baits are going to do are kind of get those more sluggish bass going and get them out of the water. You can also use a jig, which I talked about in a couple of videos ago. That'll get those more tired bass going too. When the bite in that area kind of dies down, I would let it go for a little bit and let more fish kind of funnel back in. You don't want to keep fish in the same spot pretty heavily, especially if you're not catching anything, because the fish know, they're not dumb. So just keep going to different spots, but that's definitely one of the first spots that I would check out. Second spot I would look at are primary points. Now, primary points are usually the points in the lake that kind of drop off more quickly, and the fish will be here because they have an abundant source of food and it's a quick access to deeper water. Now, these areas are great for fishing year-round anyway. You'll always see a lot of boats kind of fishing around points like this, but especially in the spawn, when the fish are coming up from that deep water and getting shallow and they're looking for that food, this is where most of them will be. So after you're done fishing those funnel areas, go to a point. Go to multiple different points, because there will always be fish on there. Crankbaits are always a good idea to use around these points, because they are the best imitation of the bait fish that the bass are going after. But if this isn't working, then just kind of throw a football head jig, drag it on the bottom, and you're more than likely to get a few bites out of that. Like I kind of touched on earlier, not every point will have as much fish as the next one, but if the bite kind of slows down on one, or if you're not getting anything within the first few casts, move to a different one, because it's more than likely that the next point is going to have those fish. Now, you can probably guess what the third area is, and that is secondary points. Now, these secondary points will probably become stacked with fish as cold fronts move in, because most of the time when the weather turns warm for spring, there's gonna be a few of those cold days here and there. So during this time, these fish are gonna be stacked up in those little secondary points, and it'll be a great way to get some easy fish. Since you'll probably be fishing these areas more when it's colder outside, I would stick to slower moving baits. So maybe a shaky head with a little Senko worm on it. That'd be a great one to use. That always seems to trigger the bites for the slower moving fish. The fourth area that I kind of want to focus on are main lake flats. Now, these are places that I don't really have a lot of knowledge of. They just always seem to come up in every sort of reading or watching of videos that I do. These areas are kind of irregularities in the bottom of the lake. This can hold a lot of fish or none at all. So it just kind of depends, and it's not really weather based how the other locations were. It's just whatever the fish are thinking, really. The main bait that should be used when fishing on flats is that lipless crankbait. Lipless crankbaits are crazy lures to use in the pre-spawn, and these flats are perfect for that. The fifth and final location that I want to touch on is one that I kind of mentioned before, and that is the backwater ponds. Now, these areas, if the fish are there, will be key, because all the fish will be moving from deep water to shallow water, and these ponds are going to be all shallow water. Now, after that, those couple days of warm water is where you can definitely find these fish, and where I would suggest going first. These little backwater ponds are so important because you'll always have fish coming to you. They're always going to be moving from deep water to shallow water all throughout the spawning period. These areas you can fish basically just like little farm ponds, which is what I love about them. You can throw little plastic crawfish, you can throw the lipless crankbait. Anything really is going to catch these fish because they're just going to be hungry. They're going to be ready to get this spawning done. And yeah, I mean, it's just a great area for fishing this time of year. That kind of wraps up this video. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite lures are to fish during spawning, what your favorite locations are, or even if there's locations that I missed that you like to fish. Let me know. As always, guys, stay warm if you're up north. We're supposed to get more snow, which is just stupid, but whatever, I guess. Enjoy if you're down south, because you're doing a lot more fishing than I'm doing. But yeah, guys, keep on fishing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.